Imagine a vast, sprawling city that never sleeps. It lives inside you. This city is your nervous system. It is a metropolis of incredible complexity and speed. Trillions of tiny houses populate its landscape. These houses are your neurons, the fundamental citizens of your inner world. They are connected by a labyrinth of roads and highways. These are your nerve fibers. Day and night, messages flash through this network, faster than a race car. They carry every sensation, every thought, every command that makes you who you are. Each neuron house has a main living area, the cell body. From this body, branching streets called dendrites reach out, listening for messages. A single long superhighway extends from each house, the axon. It is the primary route for sending messages out. Some axons connect a neighbor next door. Others stretch an entire limb like an interstate. Think about the sheer scale of this operation. Your brain alone contains around 86 billion neurons. Each can form thousands of connections. A network more complex than the entire internet. This is not a static city. It is dynamic and living. Streets widen, new connections form, old ones fade. This remarkable change, neuroplasticity, shapes your city every second. Consider a single neuron house in a quiet moment. It is in a state of readiness, a resting state. Not inactive, but maintaining a delicate and crucial balance. The walls, the cell membrane, are studded with special gates and pumps. These control traffic of tiny charged particles called ions. Think of them as the people of our city, sodium and potassium. The neuron uses energy to pump sodium people out, while keeping a reserve of potassium people inside. Outside becomes more positive, inside less so. This difference in charge is the resting potential, like a coiled spring, a drawn bowstring. Most gates are closed, keeping sodium from rushing in. The city is calm, yet tense, awaiting the right trigger. Now, a knock at the door. A signal arrives from a neighbor or a sensory receptor. Ligand-gated channels creak open when chemical messengers bind. A trickle of positive sodium people enters, making the inside a little less negative. If the knock is soft, the house quickly returns to rest, but if many signals arrive, many gates open. If enough positivity rushes in to reach a critical threshold, everything changes at once, a point of no return. Voltage-gated sodium channels suddenly fly open together, like dam floodgates released. The quiet moment is over. The signal is about to be born. Act 1 reaches its climax as the impulse begins its journey. Yes. Next, how the signal surges forward and resets to keep moving. The threshold has been crossed. Voltage-gated sodium channels swing open. A dramatic flood pours in, driven by charge difference and high outside concentration. The influx is massive and rapid. It reverses the neuron's polarity. Inside becomes briefly positive. This dramatic flip is the nerve impulse, the action potential. Not a gentle wave, but an all-or-nothing explosion of electrical activity, full strength or not at all. Like dominoes, once it starts, it cannot be stopped. This high excitement state cannot last. Sodium gates slam shut. Voltage-gated potassium channels open. Potassium flows out, driven by the now positive inside and its gradient. Outward flow restores the negative inside state, repolarization. For a brief refractory period, firing again is difficult or impossible, preventing backward spread and overload. The sodium-potassium pump then returns ions to their starting positions, fully restoring rest. The neuron is primed for the next signal, and that is how the spike keeps moving. The action potential at one end must reach the other. Positive charge inside triggers the next sodium channels. A fresh spike forms in each adjacent segment, like a firecracker fuse, effective for short distances. But from spinal cord to big toe, step by step is too slow. The city needs an expressway, myelin. Enter myelin, a fatty insulating sheath wrapped around the axon like plastic around a wire. Specialized cells wrap repeatedly, forming a multi-layered blanket. The sheath is not continuous. Gaps called nodes of Ranvier are exposed. Myelin is superb insulation, preventing the city's people, ions, from leaking out. Current travels passively and almost instantly under myelin, like electricity in a copper wire. At each node, voltage-gated sodium channels open and the spike is regenerated at full strength. The impulse leaps node to node, saltatory conduction, rapid and energy efficient. Ion pumps are needed mainly at nodes, saving energy. That is why reflexes are quick and thought processing rapid. The myelin expressway keeps the city at the speed of light. The action potential arrives at the axon terminal, facing a gap to the next neuron. This tiny, fluid-filled plaza is the synapse. Electricity cannot jump it directly. The message converts to chemical formed across, then back to electrical on the other side. Arrival triggers voltage-gated calcium channels to open. Calcium rushes in, the critical trigger that signals vesicles to move to the membrane. Tiny envelopes fuse and release neurotransmitters into the synaptic gap. The message in a bottle floats across the plaza to the receiving dendrite. Receptors, like specific mailboxes, await matching neurotransmitter keys. When binding occurs, the message is received and the response begins. Some receptors open to let positive ions in, exciting the neuron. Others allow negatives in or positives out, inhibiting firing. After delivery, neurotransmitters are broken down or recycled by reuptake. Cleanup keeps communication clear and precise. First, a simple reflex. You touch a thorn. Sensory endings detect pressure and tissue damage. A spike is generated and races up a myelinated axon, the conduction phase. Before the brain is involved, the sensory neuron synapses with an inner neuron in the spinal cord. Calcium influx, neurotransmitter release. The inner neuron fires and synapses with a motor neuron. The motor neuron fires, releases transmitters at the muscle, and your hand pulls away in a fraction of a second. Now, a complex process. Learning that Australia's capital is Canberra activates networks like the hippocampus. A cascade of spikes and neurotransmitters spreads through a circuit. At first, connections are weak. With repetition, synapses strengthen, more transmitters release, receptors upregulate, and new connections sprout. The memory becomes a durable trace, a well-worn road on your brain's map. When infrastructure works, messages flow. You move with grace, think with clarity, experience the world richly. Nutrition builds neurotransmitters and myelin. Sleep clears waste and consolidates memories. Exercise grows neurons and strengthens connections. Many conditions involve signaling issues. Multiple sclerosis damages myelin. Parkinson's loses dopamine neurons. Mood disorders alter transmitter systems. Therapies act at synapses, blocking reuptake, mimicking transmitters, or modulating receptors. The most hopeful truth: your brain city is adaptable. Learn, practice, change perspective. You physically remodel neural roads.